So, we decided to travel around Ireland for 10 days, camping in our car. And I'm not even sure how to fully encompass a trip like this. I am not sure I even have the words. Magic is definitely one word. Era, you are magical. The full moon, the Irish country roads that feel like you're walking in a myth, the symbolism of Easter, of death and rebirth all around us. I felt so guided on this trip. We spent the days going from place to place, a complete adventure as to where we're going to end up parking our car and sleep, or where we're going to even shower. We really just had to embrace what is and go with the flow. At night, we often read our books cozied up in the car. We brought a book called Wicklow Folk Tales by Brendan Nolan, and we read to each other at night, which felt really grounding, but also some of the stories in here were pretty spooky, so I was going to sleep sometimes in the car feeling a bit spooked. But the days were filled with adventure and excitement, but also challenges emotionally, if I'm being honest, with so much newness and vastness. Being on the road reminded me a lot to take things as they come, to welcome the unpredictability of it all, and to surrender control, which is so much easier said than done. And simplicity. The most important things in life are the simple things. Oh, do you want a bit of cheese with it? We started off the trip in Cork City and we spent 2 days there. And Cork City actually doesn't feel like other cities that I've been to, in the sense that it's a big city, but it feels that bit less intense than other cities. And I can get pretty overstimulated in cities, but I loved Cork. That evening then, when we got to the city, we ended up going to the Marina Market, we walked around the city, and then we also found this really cool ambient set to go to in this bar called Dali. And it was like really interesting and strange, and I never listened to something like that before. And then we drove to Fountainstown Beach late that night and we stayed there for the night. The next day, when we woke up at the beach, we had a lovely swim in the sea and it was so cold, but we felt so giddy and so happy to just be alive. It felt really freeing. And we drove back to the city then and went to this really cool market called the Mother Jones Flea Market. And this is just such a cool stop. If you're in Cork City, definitely have a little stop here. I went here years ago and it was so nice to be back. We spent the day then in the city and we got some ramen in the Marina Market, which I was really craving the night before, and it was so good. I get a bit overstimulated in the city, but I really enjoyed the ramen that we had.
Yeah, it was
It
really
was the most
nice.
delicious ramen and it filled not only my belly but also my soul.
I love to hear that.
We ended the night then again at Fountainstown Beach, and it was just such a gorgeous location and unique location to be in. On the second day, though, that night, we were like starting to really feel that homesickness, I think, and we really wanted our comfort, but I think we both knew that we just had to wait it out and move through the discomfort. We woke up at the beach again, and mentally this morning felt hard. I ended up sitting on the bench with my tea and I did my morning pages, which really helped. We went then for a quick dip, and we actually ended up seeing someone that we had met in a completely different part of Ireland at some other point, which was really cool. Then we drove back to the city and went to the English market, and they have this really delicious vegan cheese there that we both love, so we got loads of that. And then we stopped at a cafe to chill, and I had some work to do, and we walked around the city. We went to bookshops as well that we really wanted to visit. This one, John Ransom, The Psychopath Test.
Thoroughly informative and very funny. Diagnosing friends and family and co-workers will be inevitable. Ones that they had in the National Gallery of Ireland. Yeah.
And then we started heading for West Cork, and it was so nice to be back out of the city and driving in the countryside again. That night we ended up in Goulin, which is a fishing village, and we were just surrounded by water and boats everywhere. It was really cool. It was a really unique place to be in. And it took us some time to find parking for the night, and once we did, we were so tired, but we decided we'd go on a short walk. And the night took a really interesting turn. We saw this bar that looked closed, but Rob suggested we try to go in. So we walked in, and there's this man at a bar, and he looks like the only person there with the bar woman. And it turned out that it was just this man in the place with his son, and they were playing pool. But immediately as we walked in, he approached us and he welcomed us. And he had such an intense energy about him, and I was just immediately intrigued. You know when you come across someone and you can feel that they've seen more than I can see? Like, that was this man. He talked to us about life, about the path, about being aware, about listening inwards, and the importance of having a self-description, and just so much more. We could have easily missed this place and went to bed, but we met this really interesting spiritual man with so much wisdom. He was a real man of the land, of the earth, and he had an intense spirit about him, but really warm. And it was interesting that we just didn't find parking in any other places that night but there. We woke up in Goulin and drove straight to this beach called Barley Cove in hopes that we'd be able to find a tap to wash, and we did. And it was such an adventure. We laughed washing our asses.
Just finally showered our asses with actual soap this time instead of salt water, which is nice for a change.
Yeah.
Now we're on our way to Mizenhead, West Cork. We're 7 minutes away, 5 minutes away.
And I was so nervous to go to this peninsula. My fear for heights was starting to act up. The girl behind the counter at Mizenhead said that it wasn't that high, but I actually knew that she probably didn't realise what it's like to have a fear of heights. And we headed off on the walk. And once we got into the walk, I started to feel worse and worse. Like, if you have a fear of heights, you know what I'm talking about. I actually just started to cry out of fear. And I think it was because there was this deep feeling of knowing that I really wanted to do it. I really wanted to challenge myself on this trip. And then this inner dilemma of feeling like I can't. And just to point out that I'm aware of how small this might look for people, but for me it was such a challenge. I kept on walking, I got to Mizenhead Bridge, and I just stood there, crying, frozen. I eventually just got this feeling that I can't do it, and I turned back around. And on my way back, crying still, I just wanted to turn back. I apologised to Rob, but he said he would go back and forth with me as many times as I needed to. And I just feel so blessed to have you in my life, Rob, so thank you for that. So we turned back for the bridge again, and when we got there, we ran across. Sometimes when I'm scared, it helps to just run. We crossed, and then I cried so hard in gratitude.
The keeper in charge, Mizenhead.
I continue to have that voice pounding in my head after I cross, saying I can't do it, or now that I crossed the bridge, how the hell am I going to get back? But I moved through it and I made it out and back, and I felt so fulfilled in my heart. We then headed for Sheep's Head.
I can see exactly where we walked. I can see where we washed. I can see the little hut.
Can you?
Yeah.
Which one?
Right there.
See it on the camera. I saw kids playing in a river by a small bridge. We stopped at a pottery place on the way, and this pottery maker worked from their shed outside their house, which was really cool. The drive was so picturesque. Natural, earthy, by the water, very Irish. Surroundings were filled with brown, green, blue. We stopped at a second hand just as you turn the corner to Sheep's Head Drive. We made another stop at a grocer on the way, and there was this interesting man inside who had all these collections in his shop. Sheep's Head was also high up when we got there, and it was another challenge to face that day. We went all the way to the lighthouse. The walk was stunning. A lake, a tiny wooden bridge, and the lookout, seeing other hills and mountains. When we got to the stairs that led to the lighthouse, I actually decided not to go down. I felt such intense fear again. So Rob went down alone, and I stayed up there by myself, and I was really just going through it in my head. I actually ended up going down the stairs a little bit as Rob was coming back up. And then I came back up because I felt like I couldn't do it. And I started to realise that it's like a little dance with the fear of heights. You go a bit more until you get scared, then you turn back, then you go again, and then you just do that as much as you need to. So in the end, I did it until I was able to go down the stairs. And I was so proud of myself. On the way back into town, we met a local farmer and he kept us chatting with the window down for ages. We then stopped at Eileen's pub and it didn't seem like it was open at first. It was so quiet and we couldn't have guessed the fun night that we were in for. We met a man named Franz who was so lovely and interesting, and again it felt wild for our paths to have crossed. There was a lot of synchronicities in that room. And hello to you, friends, if you ever watch this. Thank you for being so welcoming. You're also such an intelligent, connective and creative person who has definitely inspired me on my path. Rob ended up playing darts with the locals, and I actually wish I had footage for this. And then we slept at a nearby beach that the locals guided us to. Nature that night felt like it was communicating to trust nature, trust my own nature, and trust the natural world, and to feel into it. The next morning felt really difficult mentally and emotionally, and I think it was my first day of autumn, and it was also a full moon, so it was pretty full on, and it was also raining outside. But we headed for Dursey Island anyway, and the drive was beautiful, passing through Glengariff, then the high hills and remote, so quiet. We got to Dursey Island and I was so unsure whether I was actually going to take the cable car to go over to the island, and it felt like a real push for me mentally at this stage because it was just like one thing after the other. But on this trip, I did feel the theme of death a lot in the air. And it was just this deep feeling of knowing that it's all gonna pass, and we're only passing through in this life. And so I wanted to experience it all, and that meant doing difficult things. So we got tickets, and I did it scared and anxious. On the way back from the island, we stopped and we spoke to David Dudley. He's one of the ticket sellers there, and he spoke to us about the history of the area, and it was such a nice part of our trip to chat to him. We then drove to a camping place for a warm shower, which was so nice, and you really appreciate the simple things when you're traveling a bit more on the wild side. And then we drove to Castletown, Bearhaven, and stayed there for the night.
Good morning.
Good morning. In the morning, we went to the Nuke Cafe, and I choked on a vitamin C pill that I accidentally inhaled. So that was a great way to start the day, spiking up that cortisol and activating the nervous system.
You got me picking my nose.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't even looking at what you're doing.
Alright, take two.
So we're on the way to Killarney National Park in
Kerry,
in County Kerry.
Yes. Yeah, we had a pretty good night's sleep. I read to Tana.
I fell asleep to Rod.
Rod. What the fuck is Rod?
The fuck is Rod? I fell asleep to Rod reading to me.
Rod reading to me. Daddy now. I read to Tana. I read her some Wicklow folk stories. This man's wife being taken away by the fairies, and he's tried to save her, and he couldn't because he looked away, and then she disappeared forever, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
So it was those kind of stories that you find in the Wicklow folklore. So you fell asleep to those beautiful stories. A little bit spooky.
I fell asleep a little bit like spooked. Like I fell asleep, I was like trying to go to sleep, and I was like feeling, like a little bit scared.
We woke up with a good bit of energy. We woke up in a better mood
Than yesterday,
that's for sure. The weather right now is a little bit rainy.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We'll take it as it is.
Yeah.
We'll try to have a great time regardless of what the weather looks like. I've been falling in love with West Cork. I've really, really been falling in love with West Cork. It's been incredible. The views are nothing short of stunning. Just gorgeous. Absolutely incredible. The people are like so nice.
Yeah.
The drinks are great. Cheap. $5.50 for a pint of Guinness.
So Rob's gonna move here because the views are nice, the people are nice, and you can drink in good company.
Yeah.
I also think like some of the places that we went to, like the pub that we went to and everything, it's like people still have that like old Irish in them where they get together, they might start singing a song at any point if they feel like it, or like they'll play games together, which like when you move to more populated areas that's kind of gone. So for me it was just so nice to see that again.
It's a community.
A sense of community. Just that sense of community was so cool, and they're welcoming to other people as well into their community.
They got me to play darts at one of the nights.
Yeah, Rob played darts with one of the lads. So yeah, let's see what's in the day for us.
Yeah.
And then we headed for Killarney and Kerry, and we went for a coffee, then a walk in Killarney National Park.
This is very beautiful Irish, clearly Irish artwork, I'm assuming, but it looks very Roman / Greek inspired. Like, look at the stonework. It's very reminiscent of like Roman Greek architecture.
It is, but it's also very Celtic.
Yeah.
Like the hair, the chalice. And we walked up to Muckross Abbey, and there was this tree in the middle that was so breathtaking. I literally had to take a minute to catch my breath. I was in awe of this being. We then walked up to the lake that was a couple of minutes away, and I was feeling this deep presence of the Kyloch there, and she's this powerful entity in Irish folklore, and she had some things to teach me about being your own woman, being strong and untamed, about trusting yourself and then facing the dark and transforming, balance and boundaries. She was a very insightful presence on my trip. It was a rainy day that day, but I just really felt like I needed the rain, and Rob on the other hand didn't, but he embraced it anyway. And the lake view from Killarney National Park was exactly what I needed. There was this yellow flower that caught my eye not long after. It was the only bloom that I could see, this big bright yellow, among rainy, foggy darkness. The dramatic view of the lake felt so at home, so dramatic and unapologetic for herself. We then headed to Waterville for the night, and the drive was so beautiful. Is that a bull?
That's a bull. Huge one too.
Oh, wow.
Huge fucking bull. She was talking about me.
So in about 8 kilometers we're gonna go to Goosey Island.
Silly goose.
But it was another difficult night mentally until we found parking. It was Good Friday and the symbol of the rabbit was everywhere. We went to a pub in the village there. We played cards and cozied up. There were darts on the TV, which brought us right back to Eileen's pub when Rob was playing the darts. The next morning and throughout the whole night, the wind was so strong, and the wind element has actually been such an ally in discomfort and anxiety on this trip. And we were going to wash that morning in the cold tap at the sea, but we actually ended up going for a sauna, which was such a treat. Like, how are you? How's this trip treating you so far, if you're to like reflect a little bit?
It's been really nice. I'm very glad I've got to experience all that I've experienced so far. I've been tired a lot more often than I thought I would have been. I find it difficult to go through places I'm not familiar with and not know where we're gonna sleep, what we're gonna do, where we're gonna eat, how things are gonna turn up. It's a little bit difficult when it comes to these kind of things for me. But I feel like through exposure I'm gonna get better at it. And I am getting better at that. I'm becoming less anxious. That's how I feel. How do you feel?
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's definitely getting like a little bit easier. Although last night I was pretty anxious going to bed. I really felt really out of like my depth, out of familiarity. I felt really challenged, just the thought, because what gets to me is like the thought of just being like so remote. That really just brings up anxiety, and I can just feel the depth of how far away I am from a place. So that was really with me last night as I was falling asleep, and unfortunately like you reading stories wasn't helping like the way it was the night before, and I really hoped that it would, but I still appreciated your story. Yeah, I'm excited to see what's ahead, and I'm starting to learn a lot, I think, more about myself, but also like about exploring the world and what that's like, and like the uncomfortability of it, how you kind of just have to like adapt, and it really challenges those like edges of you. Like you go through emotions and motions of different things, of like feeling really challenged, feeling calm and collected and at home, learning a lot. Like it's just, yeah, I feel like just a multitude of things. I'm just grateful that I get to do this, because like a lot of my ancestors wouldn't have, you know, although maybe my ancestors from one side kind of would have maybe traveled a lot, but
Yeah.
you know, I know from like maybe the last few generations they definitely didn't. And I've noticed there's like this fear building up in my family of like traveling far from unfamiliar places. You know, I can see it in certain family members, So there's like something there that's also passed on to me, and I'm trying to meet those edges of myself, and that feels good, you know. Anything else you'd like to add at this point in the trip?
No, I just want to stay open to the way things are gonna be and have fun and embrace whatever comes up. All the difficulties and all the beautiful moments, stay present. Look for the beautiful signs, look for life, look for everything.
Yeah. And just Easter Sunday and like traveling during this time just feels really aligned, and it feels like there's a lot of symbolism in the air that
I agree.
I'm paying attention to. And yeah, there's just been so many beautiful like coincidences, interesting people along the way. It's just been feeling really aligned and really spiritual, and really like what a lot of these symbols along the way showing up for me, and kind of experiencing all the different things that we've experienced so far. Is like I've just been feeling this deep trust in the travels and where we're going, and I just can't believe that we're actually doing it. But yeah, it's really cool.
It's really fucking cool.
Yeah. Cool. Glad we're doing this together.
Me too. I'm ready.
Then we headed for the Gap of Dunloe, and this was stunning. The river here is just gorgeous. And it was actually busy enough here. I feel like until we got to Kerry, all the places were pretty quiet. But it was gorgeous nonetheless, and I'm so grateful that I get to see these places in my lifetime. Then we drove to Dingle and stayed there for the night. We ended up having fish and chips in the famous chipper called Real Dingle Fish, and we headed by the harbour. We saw a seal, and then there was just so many herons as well going back and forward from boat to boat. We were tired and we parked our car in the town for the night and ended the night in a local pub. The town was so lively that night. The next day, we had a slow morning in Dingle. We walked through the town and had a look at the different shops. There was this really cool bookshop called the Dingle Bookshop, and it had all these interesting Irish books. We then headed to Inch Beach to settle there for the night and have some dinner. So there's like a storm on our travels. It's kind of rainy and windy.
It's called Storm
Dave. But yeah, so we're going to treat ourselves to staying in this like camping place so we can have warm showers.
We gotta treat ourselves.
We're gonna put the kettle on.
We gotta treat ourselves to a literal camping like place.
Literally,
because we couldn't find any accommodation up in Donegal, Sligo, nor Mayo. Nothing decent.
Well, we could. Yeah, we could, but
nothing worth spending money on.
No, not in our humble opinion. No. We found something, but you had to stay the 2 nights instead of the 1, which is fair enough. And we're gonna listen to Ed Sheeran now, so we gotta go.
So that's what we're gonna do right now. See you now.
We went for a walk there by the beach, and I just had such heavy energy that I needed to move. And we took it easy then for the night. We watched Seinfeld.
Season 3.
And it was a really slow, chill time, which was just exactly what we needed. At this point, I was starting to realise that travelling in the autumn part of my menstrual cycle, which is that pre-menstruation period, is not easy, but having awareness around it really helped. The next morning then, waking up at Inch Beach was gorgeous. We got some coffee and we went for a walk, and we both did our morning pages. It was busy with people because of Easter. We had a slow day again with a warm shower, some food, and then we headed back for Dingle. We went to see the Kerry Ring Fort, which was gorgeous. It was this vast and powerful place. The sun was beaming. It was beautiful. We then headed to Maynard Castle and went for a walk and found a gorgeous well. This place had that magical, mythological feeling to it, and it was by far one of my favourite places. Then we headed for the lighthouse, and the car engine light came on. I was thinking like, oh, we kind of got off easy. Most people like struggle a bit more.
Have car troubles, a flat tire, this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be alright.
Oh, we'll be okay, regardless.
Yeah.
You got it?
And it's dark in a cold December, but I got you to keep me warm. And there was actually a local mechanic that agreed to see us, even though it was Easter Sunday. So thank God for kind people in this world. We walked up to the tower because there was still some time before we were going to see him. And eventually when we went to see him, the mechanic said that it's all good to drive back. So we just made sure to take it easy and be careful with how much we drove. We got back to Dingle for the night and slept by a beach nearby. I got this earring in West Cork.
At Aileen's bar.
At Aileen's bar. I got it there. And lost it out in Dingle in the storm. While there was a storm on. Looked for it, didn't find it. We're back here. And now it's just outside the place that we got a takeaway.
Insane. I'm waiting for these fuckers.
To be honest, it was a challenging evening, and there was a lot coming up. I was reading Braiding Sweetgrass that night, and a paragraph really stuck with me. The narrator talks about how she found her passion, and about how she's in between these two worlds, and bringing those two worlds together, and I felt really inspired. The next day, when we woke up, it was a bit grim with the weather, and things still felt heavy. But we headed out to Dingle again, and we went to see the Galrus Oratory. The story of the oratory was so interesting. Apparently there might have been a man, Saint Brendan, who possibly made it to America before Christopher Columbus, which, wild, we never really hear that story. We then headed to a nearby beach called Moyrock Beach for a swim, and it was windy and cold, but we did it. And still moving through a lot, Rob was actually such a great support and physically helped me move through it by getting up and encouraging me to shake my body through it. And before we headed off, Rob surprised me hugely, and it's something that I would love to share with you all at some point soon. But to say that we ended up on such a high note after moving through it all, I'm feeling so excited for what's to come. We then ended the day with dinner in a lovely place in Dingle, celebrating all that has been and all that will be. And we spent our last night in Dingle. I'm aware that this story is being told from my perspective and not Rob's perspective, and I hope that he tells the story of our travels from his perspective in some shape or form. But what an adventure. We had so many ups and downs, learnings, connection, love, and simplicity. And my heart is so full after this trip. And honestly, I wouldn't have changed a single thing. Staying in the car was not only cheaper, but it also added that extra layer of adventure. And the trip just reminded me to come back to the simple things in life. Moving slow, being present, spending time with myself and others, and connecting with the natural world and letting it guide us. This theme kept on coming up of just passing through, which was really present at the end of the trip. It does remind me of this song by Ben Howard called Time is Dancing. And if you don't know it, it goes like this. Hold it in there, let's go dancing. I do believe we're only passing through. This trip reminded me of how short life is and how important it is to be present. We're really just passing through in this life, and it's so easy to get caught up in the intricacies of it all. But really, it's also temporary, and all we have is now. And I dedicate this video to my sweet love, Rob. Thank you for being the most amazing human, and I feel so grateful to have you in my life. Better now, I'm out of mind, I'm out of mind. I'll pick you up when you feel down. And out of all these things I've done, I think I love you better now. It's dark and cold December, but God, that you keep me warm. I'm out of touch, I'm out of love. I'll pick you up
When you're feeling down, and out of all these things I've done,
I think I love you better now. I'm out of touch,
I'm out of love.
I'll pick you up
When you're feeling